in some circles have an agenda. Peter Schweizer knows he's nodding along with me. His book is #1 in the country. I'm sure it's going to appear #1 on the New York Times list, if not #2, and it'll be there for a long time. He's the president of Government Accountability Institute and author of a book that's virtually brand new, Profiles in Corruption, Abuse of Power by America's Progressive Elite. Peter, welcome back.
Great to be with you, Brian.
So to see what you worked on, being commented on in Washington, is that like almost a relief to you?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I think corruption is one of those central issues that people have to get their hands around, because we send people to Washington to represent us. And the question is, are they representing us, or are they representing their own interests? And what you found in the case of Joe Biden in Ukraine was simply the fact that his policy was being driven in part by the interests of his family. I mean, the timeline's clear, Brian. Think about it. Putin moves into Crimea in February of 2014. Next month, March of 2014, Barack Obama says Joe Biden is going to be my point person in Ukraine. Within 3 weeks, Joe Biden's son is on the payroll of Burisma. They had no interest in him before. They didn't have interest with him after. It's clearly tied to the fact that they were trying to persuade him. And Joe Biden could have simply said to his son, you're not doing deals like that. If you do deals like that, you're not coming to the White House. You're not going to fly in Air Force 2 with me. You're not coming to state dinners. He didn't do anything. He knew exactly what was going on.
Or he put him there. Yeah, that hasn't been proven, but who knows?
Yeah.
So he has this one conversation that appears in a magazine. He says, Hunter, I hope you know what you're doing. He goes, I do, Dad. He's asked later, did you know anything about it? He goes, I don't. I didn't know anything. That's not true. So what this is for people listening right now, why is this relevant? Why did Joe Manchin just say that Hunter Biden's a relative witness? Because Joe Manchin's clear thinking, a Democrat from West Virginia, said this. What they were trying to do is not hurt the Bidens. What the defense team was trying to do is say, this is what the president was thinking and going on when he said, I want to find out what was going on over there.
Right.
So to not bring that up and to avoid that is to not understand what the president was thinking.
Exactly right. And look, here's the key thing that people have to understand that I think a lot of the media has not paid attention to is that phone call that Donald Trump had with Zelensky, the new leader of Ukraine. What people have to understand is that Zelensky came to power with the support, the financial support of an oligarch named Kolomoisky. Kolomoisky, very corrupt guy. He ran Privat Bank, the largest bank in Ukraine, which, by the way, more than $1 billion in U.S. aid disappeared from. So already Zelensky's coming to office backed by a guy who has some corruption issues. The other problem, though, is that the guy backing Zelensky, Kolomoisky, also is believed by many Ukrainian anti-corruption people to be involved with Burisma. So it's completely
logical.
It's logical and important. And for the president to raise it with Zelensky, knowing Zelensky is going to want to blow it off because his chief financial backer is potentially implicated in these payments to the son of Joe Biden.
So, Peter, I know it's Monday Morning Quarterback, and we're 3 Mondays in. But wouldn't it have been better for the president to go into the Oval Office and say, I'm really concerned about what's gone on here in 2016 and currently, and I'm very concerned about the Ukrainian security because I know the Russians still have designs and are still in the country. So here's Rudy Giuliani, and now that I'm done with the Mueller report, he's going to be focusing on corruption, and I'm asking the State Department to help him out. Rudy, you want to say a few words? Yes.
Yeah.
So then you have somebody who's above board, who's talking about 2016. You may be mentioned in the open to the preamble to this. Could that be something that would not get you in any trouble?
Right.
Your objective was still the same. How you did it got you in trouble.
Yeah, I think, look.
He's not trying to make Trump Tower bigger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look, I think, he probably could have used slightly different language in the call. I don't believe, by the way, at all that he was trying to shake down Ukrainians. I mean, if Donald Trump's going to shake somebody down and press them on something, they're going to know it. He's not subtle about it. We all know that. I think probably the best thing would have been to say, look, I am going to put my attorney general in touch with your top law enforcement official, and I expect you to cooperate with him. And I think if Bill Barr had been the one directly handling this, that would have been the traditional channels. That would have been better. But look, at the end of the day, you're talking about a country, Ukraine, that is the most corrupt in the world. There was a Reuters reporter a couple of years ago who said there are things that go on in Ukraine that would make Nigerians to blush. We all know Nigeria is corrupt. Ukraine's even more corrupt. And there are billions of dollars in U.S. taxpayer money that have disappeared. So there is certainly a responsibility of the president to raise those issues.
But your focus in the book is things like, for example, with the Biden family. He doesn't have much money, but his family does because he has power.
Right.
Give me an example. I mean, today I'm reading this story about his daughter gets $166,000 for her nonprofit.
Right. Yeah, there's all kinds of stories. I mean, I'll give you an example of how it works with Biden. In June of 2011, these two executives, these young executives from a new company, go to the Oval Office. Joe Biden escorts them in to meet with Barack Obama. They've just started a company. They barely have a website. It's called Startup Health. It's a healthcare investment company. The next day, they are featured at a Obama administration, Biden administration healthcare seminar. Over the next 5 years, Joe Biden goes, when this company is holding private meetings for their investors, goes and briefs investors and partners on what's going on in healthcare policy behind closed doors, not public speeches. Well, one of the three principals involved in Startup Health happens to be married to his daughter, Ashley Biden. Is that appropriate? Absolutely not. And when Joe Biden says, you quoted him earlier saying, I have never discussed business with any of my family, how is that conceivably possible when you bring these executives in to meet Barack Obama and you're briefing your son-in-law's business investors? It's a pattern of behavior. Hunter Biden is the tip of the iceberg. And as I point out in the book, you have what I call the Biden Five, the 5 members of the Biden family who cashed in while he was vice president. They did it all kinds of different ways, all kinds of very deeply troubling ways.
So one way in which Politico writes a story today that Joe Biden's brother bought an acre of land with excellent ocean views on a remote island in the Caribbean for $150,000. He divided into 3 parcels. The next year, the lobbyist close to the Delaware senator bought one of the parcels for what had been the cost of the entire property. Later, the lobbyist gave Biden's brother a mortgage loan on the remaining parcels. The Virgin Islands land deal, reported here for the first time, meaning in Politico, furthers a pattern in which members of the Biden family have engaged in financial dealings with people with an interest in influencing the former vice president or vice versa.
Yeah, this is what I call offshoring corruption, Brian. So if you're a senator from the great state of New York, and you're crooked, and you wouldn't be crooked, but let's say you were crooked, you would be smart about it and say, well, Peter, I don't want to take payment from you, but pay my brother or hire my son to a no-show job. You're offshoring corruption, but it's still corruption. And that's precisely what the Bidens engage in. So you've got Frank Biden in this case, who's doing all these deals in the Caribbean. You've got his brother James, who's doing these deals with contractors in Iraq, et cetera. Joe Biden's not getting paid, but his unqualified family members are getting energy deals in Costa Rica and Jamaica. His brother Frank, even though he has no background in energy, he's involved in projects that are getting taxpayer-backed loans, even though he has no background in energy. You've got the other brother, James, who joins a startup construction company as executive vice president, no background in construction, and within 6 months, they land a contract to build 100,000 homes in Iraq worth $1.5 billion. How does that happen? I think we all know how that happens.
And by the way,
Virginia didn't have an office, and it was run by 2 of Jane's friends. Now, when Jane was asked about this, actually, I give him credit, a progressive reporter in Vermont asked Jane about Old Town Media. She hung up the phone. She didn't want to talk about it. So the question is where did that media end up? Who got the $12 million fee that would have gone with that $83 million media buy?
It's unbelievable. And obviously they're hiding something to make it so hard to find. But also this problem with this college.
Yes.
She escaped on that. People are looking at that. They just dropped this.
Yeah.
She was running a college and it went belly up and money's gone.
Yes, exactly. She's picked to be the president of Burlington College. It's a small college with about 200 students in it. She becomes the president of the college. The Board of Regents say they picked her in part because
Jane Sanders.
Yeah, Jane Sanders. They picked her in part because Bernie was, of course, a powerful political figure. And she has plans. She wants to expand it. So she takes out these bank loans. The problem is she takes out the bank loans by claiming on the application that all of these individuals have pledged million dollar donations to the college. Turns out most of those people say, I never pledged a dime. I never pledged any of that money. So immediately there was the concern about bank fraud, if bank fraud had occurred in here. But here's the other problem, Brian. This college is struggling. They're having trouble paying their bills. What does Jane do? Jane takes $500,000 and funnels it to a unaccredited woodworking school that's run by her daughter. So the college is having trouble getting by. Jane's in charge. They're not making bank payments. Money is going to her daughter's woodworking school. And, of course, the college ends up collapsing.
And no one pays the price for that.
Nobody pays the price for that. There was an FBI investigation, which was inconclusive. The price was paid by the students and the faculty members that were there. And the president that followed Jane, that was there right before it collapsed, said, look, this loan should not have been approved. It was approved because of who Jane Sanders was.
Peter Schweitzer's here. His book, Profiles in Corruption, is white hot. He's going to be back to talk a little Elizabeth Warren when we return. She is hardly silky smooth when it comes to her investments and her family benefiting off her power. Don't move.
Diving deep into today's top stories, it's Brian Kilmeade. On Talk Radio 77 WABC.
I like that you broke you like me. Maybe that makes me a fool.
Here's something every American ought to have. Real, honest U.S. gold money. And now it's possible to get some specially priced from government.com. Just call 1-800-721-0383. A limited number of gold Liberty coins have been released for sale. Folks, this money means something. Struck from U.S. gold. This money's got real heft. Value you can weigh in your hand. American history you can hold. Gold Liberty's over 110 years old. Preserved in uncirculated condition. Actual solid gold Liberty coins from the California Gold Rush era. Coins so limited and priced so low, you can only get 3 per household. To find out how to secure your coins at this exceptional government price, call 1-800-721-0383. Call now, and we'll give you a free gold guide plus a bonus Patriots pack, including a 100-year-old U.S. Lincoln cent, just for calling. Call now to get your free gold guide, including an actual 100-year-old U.S. Lincoln cent, valued at over $10. Free. 1-800-721-0383. That's 1-800-721-0383.
Impact Mortgage Corp. DBA Cash Call Mortgage. NMLS ID 128231. Equal housing lender. Not licensed in all states, including New York. Offer not available in Washington. Call 855-657-9910 for licensing terms and restrictions.
You see it on TV every day. Global turmoil. But these international events help keep interest rates low and may even drive them lower. In response, we at Cash Call Mortgage have lowered our interest rates for the new year. And that's great news for homeowners. If you have a current rate above 2.99%, call us to see how much you can save. If you qualify, we'll even pay your closing costs. And we can close your refi in as fast as 20 days with no upfront deposit. With our low interest rates and no closing costs if you qualify, there's never been a better time to lock in a low rate before it's gone. For a free quote, go to cashcallmortgage.com or call 800-605-5816. That's 800-605-5816. 800-605-5816.
Postage rates have gone up again. Thankfully, Stamps.com eases the pain with big discounts off post office retail rates, like 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 40% off shipping rates. That kind of savings really adds up, especially for small businesses. You can forget about inconvenient trips to the post office, too, since Stamps.com is completely online. Use your computer to print official U.S. postage for any letter, package, or class of mail anywhere you want to send. Once your mail's ready, drop it in a mailbox or hand it to your mail carrier. It's that simple. Not to mention, it's a fraction of the cost of expensive postage meters, and there's no equipment to lease or long-term commitments. See why over 700,000 small businesses already use Stamps.com. Listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type radio. That's Stamps.com. Enter radio. Do you sell stuff online? Then you're probably still recovering from that crazy holiday shopping season. Well, there's a way to help you make 2020 less crazy and more successful. It's called ShipStation. ShipStation makes managing and shipping orders a breeze by allowing you to import orders from any sales channel, no matter where you're selling. ShipStation brings all your orders into one simple interface. They work with all major carriers, including USPS, FedEx, and UPS, allowing you to compare and choose the best shipping solution for you and your customers. customer. ShipStation offers discounts on shipping rates, so you can access the same discounts usually reserved for Fortune 500 companies. There's a reason ShipStation is the #1 choice of online sellers. Start this year right at ShipStation.com. Use offer code RADIO to get a 60-day trial free. That's 2 months free of no-hassle, stress-free shipping. Visit ShipStation.com. Click the microphone at the top of the page and type RADIO. That's ShipStation.com. Offer code RADIO. ShipStation. Make ship happen.
Talk show that's real. This is the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Hey, we're back. A few more minutes with Peter Schweizer. His book is killing it. Profiles in Corruption, Abuse of Power by America's Progressive Elite. So Senator Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to take anybody from billionaires. I don't like billionaires. I'm going to give a wealth tax. This economy's not benefiting everybody out working class. It's only for the rich. What has she been doing since she has acquired some power?
That's a great question. Elizabeth Warren, what a lot of people don't realize is that in the mid-1990s, she was hired by Congress, paid by us taxpayers, to rewrite part of the bankruptcy law. And then she did the oldest, I think, sleaziest thing in Washington, D.C. While she was still a consultant, she started going to corporations. Corporations started coming to her, and she said, pay me, and I will interpret the law that I am writing for your benefit. And that's what she did. She got hired by Dow Chemical, Armstrong Worldwide, all of these companies. It's the sleaziest game in Washington, D.C. It's completely legal because, of course, they write their own rules. And she's made millions of dollars doing that. And when you look at her investment portfolio, this goes for Bernie Sanders, the same thing, by the way. You look at their investment portfolio, Brian, they're not investing in, like, renewable energy companies. They don't invest in socially responsible mutual funds. I mean, they are in S&P 500 stock. And that's the same thing with Elizabeth Warren. So for all of her alleged dislike of corporations who need to rein them in, she made millions of dollars working for them, interpreting rules and laws to their benefit. And when she has money to invest, she invests in those corporations.
Now, what about her daughter and TARP?
Yes. So there's another interesting twist. This is the sort of second layer of this 3-layer cake with Elizabeth Warren. Her daughter, Amelia Tyagi, was setting up a company at the same time that Elizabeth Warren became the chairwoman of the TARP Oversight Committee. TARP was the Troubled Asset Relief Program, and they were the ones that were giving billions of dollars to Wall Street financial firms in the bailout. As Elizabeth Warren was doing that, her daughter was getting advisors and investments from the same investment funds and firms that her mother was involved in bailing out. And we know that in some cases, Amelia actually went to meetings with her mother during this time period. So there was a blur between, and look, if you're a Wall Street firm, you're going to look for any advantage you can get to make sure you're getting a piece of the TARP pie.
Do you think in the big picture, if there is a candidate out there on the left running for the Democratic nomination, we'll see your book, even though they're not going to give you credit for it, and start bringing this up?
I think particularly those that are running as outsiders. I mean, I don't know, we can debate how much they're outsiders, but I think a Tom Steyer or Michael Bloomberg, who've not been in national office, this would be right for them, because essentially what you're saying is, I'm not like that. Bloomberg could say, as Donald Trump has said, I made my money outside of government. You guys are making all your money courtesy of the taxpayer.
Because, famously now you have Bernie Sanders, who says billionaires are the problem. He used to say millionaires are the problem. Why is that, Peter? Because he became a millionaire.
Exactly
the socialist is a millionaire. He goes, what do you want? I wrote a book and people bought it. Don't blame me.
Right, exactly. Although what he leaves out is that his campaigns actually bought.
Show.
Hey, we're back. A few more minutes with Peter Schweizer. His book is killing it. Profiles in Corruption, Abuse of Power by America's Progressive Elite. So Senator Elizabeth Warren, I'm not going to take anybody from billionaires. I don't like billionaires. I'm going to give a wealth tax. This economy's not benefiting everybody out working class. It's only for the rich. What has she been doing since she has acquired some power?
That's a great question. Elizabeth Warren, what a lot of people don't realize is that in the mid-1990s, she was hired by Congress, paid by us taxpayers, to rewrite part of the bankruptcy law. And then she did the oldest, I think, sleaziest thing in Washington, D.C. While she was still a consultant, she started going to corporations. Corporations started coming to her, and she said, pay me, and I will interpret the law that I am writing for your benefit. And that's what she did. She got hired by Dow Chemical, Armstrong Worldwide, all of these companies. It's the sleaziest game in Washington, D.C. It's completely legal because, of course, they write their own rules. And she's made millions of dollars doing that. And when you look at her investment portfolio, this goes for Bernie Sanders, the same thing, by the way. You look at their investment portfolio, Brian, they're not investing in like renewable energy companies. They don't invest in socially responsible mutual funds. I mean, they are in S&P 500 stock. And that's the same thing with Elizabeth Warren. So for all of her alleged dislike of corporations who need to rein them in, she made millions of dollars working for them, interpreting rules and laws to their benefit. And when she has money to invest, she invests in those corporations.
Now, what about her daughter and TARP?
Yes. So there's another interesting twist. This is the sort of second layer of this three-layer cake with Elizabeth Warren. Her daughter, Amelia Tiagi, was setting up a company at the same time that Elizabeth Warren became the chairwoman of the TARP Oversight Committee. TARP was the Troubled Asset Relief Program, and they were the ones that were giving billions of dollars to Wall Street financial firms in the bailout. As Elizabeth Warren was doing that, her daughter was getting advisors and investments from the same investment funds and firms that her mother was involved in bailing out. And we know that in some cases, Amelia actually went to meetings with her mother during this time period. So there was a blur between, and look, if you're a Wall Street firm, you're going to look for any advantage you can get to make sure you're getting a piece of the TARP pie.
Do you think in the big picture, if there is a candidate out there on the left running for the Democratic nomination, we'll see your book, even though they're not going to give you credit for it, and start bringing this up?
I think particularly those that are running as outsiders. I mean, I don't know, we can debate how much they're outsiders, but I think a Tom Steyer or Michael Bloomberg, who've not been in national office, this would be right for them, because essentially what you're saying is, I'm not like that. Bloomberg could say, as Donald Trump has said, I made my money outside of government. You guys are making all your money courtesy of the taxpayer.
Because, famously now you have Bernie Sanders, who says billionaires are the problem. He used to say millionaires are the problem. Why is that, Peter? Because he became a millionaire.
Exactly
the socialist is a millionaire. He goes, what do you want? I wrote a book and people bought it. Don't blame me.
Right, exactly. Although what he leaves out is that his campaigns actually bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of copies of his own books.
All right. Wow, that's interesting. By the way, you should not be ranked if that happens. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Profiles in Corruption. Peter Schweizer, congratulations. I look for this to stay on top of the list, top of the New York